Do you like the
All of the nights.
Jocko Willenick podcast where you got to be like up on the microphone?
Oh yeah, who else is that? Is that Joe Rogan also?
Yeah, it does that shit too. Like up on the microphone.
He's up on the mic. And then Alex Jones, they got to keep it 3 feet away because the guy just yells all the time.
Yeah,
He
I'm saying.
turns bright red and yells. All right, PLCs, personally luxury cruisers.
So this is a segment of cars that, I'm gonna say started in the 50s to maybe the early 60s, and then died out in, you could say, the 90s, but honestly, they were on the way out in the 80s as well. Personal Luxury Coupes is actually
Mhm.
the correct naming, but cruisers is also very, very appropriate. Cars with literally the intention of two door coupe, obviously, right? Coupes have to be two doors. Looking at BMW, there is no such thing as a four door coupe
Mhm. Mhm.
that carries
Mhm.
two people, maybe with little back seats, but usually they're kind of useless back seats. But they're not sports cars. They have a very different goal, like a GT, but also different than a GT because GTs are
Yeah.
also sporty. And the personal luxury coupes never really had any intention about being sporty. They were literally luxury cars, just in coupe form.
Yeah.
Luxury for two.
Yeah. They were more luxury than sporty,
Oh,
right?
100%. They were like all luxury. They were only as sporty as they needed
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah. Mm.
So, and you know what got started on this discussion was your mention about the 50s T-Bird and Corvette fight. And both of them, although people don't think about it
Yep.
now, the Vet didn't start life as a sports car at all.
Mm.
The original Vet was an inline
No.
six-cylinder. Uh, you know, as luxury as the 50s could be.
Per-
I mean, it,
personal look.
yeah, it was luxury for the
Yeah.
50s.
Well, the design the design language came from the same thing that the Miata was based off of, right? It was they wanted a European roadster that was Americanized. And so it wasn't the big gnarly V8 rear wheel drive gear bang shift and burnout machine. It was a
Yeah,
dainty
yeah,
take
100%.
the honey out for
Um,
picnic type deal.
yeah, 100%. That was the goal. The the Miata aimed at a
Hmm.
slightly different section of the British Roadster. Right, so the T-Bird and the
Okay.
Vet and the rest of the luxury coupes that followed were aimed at like a Jag E type kind of thing,
Okay. Okay.
or maybe like an M. Well, not really an MG, but like one of the larger, usually maybe a big six or possibly even a V8. A large
Hmm.
for the group. When I say large, I mean large for the group. A large car,
Yeah.
right? The
You're not
Miata
talking
aimed
about
at
like
like
the
MGBs.
MG Sprite or
Right. Right. That's
yeah,
what the
yeah.
Miata was
Yeah.
aiming at, was like
Yeah.
MGBs and Sprints, Firefly Sprites, Austin Healey's, stuff like that. No.
The Triumph.
Yeah. No, the Vet was taking aim at like the Austin Interceptor or the
Okay.
E-Type or some of the bigger, what they called big cars. Obviously, they still weren't big by American standards, but still. And
Hmm.
all through the 60s and 70s, that subset got bigger. No, well, they did physically get bigger, but also, I mean, market share wise, it got bigger. It was becoming a thing, right? This is where
Yeah.
the Eldorado came from. The big two door Eldorado,
Yep.
um, the
The Riviera,
yep, the
the
Riviera,
Rambler, Marlin.
all of those cars.
Oh. Studebaker Avanti, the ugliest, most beautiful car there is.
First off, it's a Stud. It's therefore automatically beautiful because all Studs are beautiful.
It is, but it's
Studebaker.
kind of weird looking.
It is pretty weird. But yeah, Studebakers are all awesome.
Yeah.
This is my hill. I'm sorry. Studebaker made some of the best looking bodies.
Yep. None. No, I agree. But the Avanti was just kind of
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so you had
It was
the
a labor. It was a labor of love.
then in the 70s these things got real weird. Um,
Hmm.
I would say in the 60s the vet kind of lost. I'm not gonna say lost its direction, but changed its direction a lot into being a
Hmm.
much more performance
Yeah.
oriented vehicle with the C2, and then even more so in the
Well,
C3.
that was also the changeover. Yeah, that was the changeover with the Apollo program, right? The whole GM's giving astronauts Corvettes because they were
Yeah,
fast and cool, and these guys were like, "This doesn't have enough power. We want to race Ferraris." That kind of changed the image.
yeah, that's true. The T-Bird also changed its direction, but it went the other direction a lot.
Yeah,
It got much larger.
because it was a four seat, right?
Originally, no, but
Yeah,
yeah, the second generation T-Bird picked up rear seats, big block V8s. Those were, I believe,
longer.
yeah, they got quite
Yeah.
a bit longer. I believe those were the first of the FE big blocks. Were actually T-Birds,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then yeah, they got into the 70s. It got even worse. The Vet continued to get more performancy, and the T-Bird continued to get more something bigger, longer, bigger hoods.
What we call the Luxo barge, the
Yes,
land barge.
the barge, the two-door barge, though, not to be confused with the four-door,
Yeah,
sedan barges. This was
yeah.
like, do you want a useless back seat, but also 5,000 pounds of American steel? Yeah, this is what's up. And
Yep.
I guess that's why they had to die, right? Like, honestly, there was no advantage in these over sedans. They weigh just as much as the sedans do. Arguably, they're worse in most metrics because the giant doors aren't good. The rear seats are less usable, all that jazz.
Hmm.
But man, there's something about them.
Hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
they lived
It
on.
was also
Go ahead.
a statement of like income, wasn't it?
Yes,
It was a
yes,
statement of income,
100%.
right? It was like
I can
instead
spend
of
money on a
having
car that isn't
the pony
practical.
car that could seat four.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Look at my opulence, and we're now seeing a return to form in that in kind of a technology based ways versus just opulence ways. But it's all, do I need $100,000 Jeep Grand what Jeep Grand Wagoneer? No, I don't.
first off,
But can I buy one to kind of show off that, like, hey, I could
no
go
one
ahead.
wants that. No one wants that.
Nobody wants that. But
But
I'm just saying, $100,000 Grand Wagoneer white with the wood sides paneling, like it exists because access. There's money in excess, and people and manufacturers are coming back to that.
yeah, that's true.
Anyways,
That's very true.
personal luxury cruisers.
Yeah, so they had a
Yeah.
weird resurgence in the 90s, actually. The late 80s into the early
Yes.
90s, right? So you had the T-Bird going into the
Hmm.
late 80s was actually kind of cool. Right? It was like the Super
Hmm.
Fox, as people call it. It's Fox body based Mustang, but not made out of beer cans and with a halfway nice interior. Lincoln had the Mark series, the Mark Sevens and
Right.
Mark Eights. Um,
Yep. Personal favorite, Steven.
yeah, I do love me some Mark Eights and Mark Sevens even. Honestly, I like Mark Sevens too.
Hmm.
Chevy had the Eldo,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was cool. Yeah, there was.
Well, they had the Monte Carlo.
Oh
Caddy
yeah,
had the
I
Eldo,
forgot about the Monty.
the Eldorado.
The Monty was less cool, but still cool. The
Yeah.
Supercharged
Well, the
3.8
Bio
was okay.
Bravera was also
Yeah,
less cool.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Would the PT Cruiser be in that category too?
no, no, no. Well, interesting point. So PTs are not two door unless you're talking about a vert,
Right.
and I'm gonna go no because I feel like the PT was intended to be practical. It was original before the vert because the PT vert was
Where
an
like a Prowler
afterthought.
wasn't.
Yeah, well the PT vert was an afterthought. Originally
Yeah.
the PT was a hatchbacky wagon thing, and the whole point of these personal luxury coupes was that they
Hmm.
weren't intended to be practical at all. They're like the opposite of practical, actually.
Yeah.
Like the aforementioned discussion, right?
Hmm.
The Monte Carlo. During that same generation, you could have gotten
Hmm.
the Impala or the Grand Prix, which would
Hmm.
be the four door variations on those. of the W body,
Hmm.
and that's literally better at everything.
Hmm.
It's more room, more seats, same mileage, same motor. Why would you get the two door? Because
Hmm.
just because. That's why you get the two door.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
also in the 90s, if you're a Euro guy, BMW and uh, Mercedes were both all about these big two doors. So BMW from the 80s, you had the
The
6
Z8.
Series.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking from the 80s into the early, I think it was
Oh.
early 90s, you had the 635s, right? Which were fundamentally
Yeah.
not any better than the 5 Series, right? They had the same driveline as the 5 Series of the time did.
Yeah.
But man, they had a
But the 6 was
style.
cool.
Yeah, they had a style about them
Hmm.
that the 5 just doesn't.
Hmm.
And
I'll,
Benz had the exact same
I'll
thing
throw up
going
a
on.
couple pictures.
Yeah, for sure, right? If you're
Yeah.
not familiar with the original 6 Series, you should be, because in BMW stylistic timelines, it is iconic Beamer look, second only to maybe the
Yeah.
2002 as being the iconic BMW style. Also, whoever at BMW right now is putting gigantic
Hmm.
grills on everything, you should take note of these pictures and then stop doing that.
Stop that.
Bad.
Stop it.
But
Yeah. Just
no, no more. Yeah, Benz was doing the same thing, right? So they had all the same basic driveline options from their big sedans available in the large coupe,
hmm
all the way from like the 420 SEL, or sorry, in that case it would be the SEC for the Benzes. And you could get these big, maybe not practical, but reasonably comfortable cruiser coupes that were just awesome. And yeah, for
yeah.
a whole multitude of reasons, this whole subclass of cars just doesn't exist anymore. It's just gone. Basically, everything two door nowadays is a pony car or sports car of some sort with performance as its primary intention.
Hmm.
There are, to my knowledge,
Right.
no two door. I guess the Miata is the closest thing to a two door not sports car, and the Miata is like the sports car of sports cars.
Well, what about like Aston Martin or Jaguar? Like those guys are still
Oh
making
yeah, I guess.
Grand Touring two doors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those they get weird though, and some other people have talked.
Oh,
People way more qualified than me have talked about this, but the focus on performance and lap
yeah.
times has ruined a lot of cars that just don't need to be focused on performance.
Yeah. The RC350 would be another
Ah,
one I'd bring up
yes,
actually for
that's a
being a two door
perfect
personal
fit.
car that's not necessarily. Yeah.
Yes,
And
that
it's
is a
gorgeous.
perfect fit. Great looking, great sounding,
Yeah.
great driving car. Uh, it's just what it needs to
Not going to say
be.
lap times.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
performance enough for what it is.
Yeah.
Performancey enough.
Gorgeous.
But yeah, it's aside from a couple of Euros, I guess, and the one Lexus. I don't think there are such a thing as
Hmm.
nice luxury coupes anymore. And it makes me sad because
Yeah.
it was an interesting subclass of cars that I think had a great place.
Thank you so much for listening to the Broken Axle podcast. If you enjoyed us, please leave a comment and like and subscribe for more.
And if you want to help us out, we've got a new merch line. You can check the links below and follow our social media at the Broken Axle Podcast.
And you can find me on Instagram at nomadic.wheelman.
And you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Just Can't Drive 55.
For the rest of us, hug your kids and call your mama.
And go bust some knuckles.
Take care.